really feel like we are at risk today of coming up with things that are going to make us look bad when the mayor announces whatever is going to be announced. If we're going to have, if it's going to be, this is the follow-up to Councilman Fillmore's. If there are going to be furloughs, which I've heard, if there are going to be layoffs, if there are going to be significant reductions, and it'll make all the news next week, what we're doing here today can really look like a terrible contrast to that. And so I just, that's always in the back of my mind. I really wish that the administration had given us better guidance, more specific guidance on where, how did we perform the first quarter? Why don't we have first quarter results? For example. So that's always in the back of my mind.
Thank you very much. And let's start with the first goal, which is the community safety. And here is investment programs and methods that continue the city's trend of reducing crime, prioritize prevention by addressing root causes, engage directly with neighborhoods, enhance information sharing, and ensure investment in community-supported anti-racist public health strategies. This goal has 7 proposals, of which 3 of them are actually the routine proposals, which are the PNI, the STAR, and the AIDS Center. And then there are 4 proposals that were put through. 2 of them come from Council Member Parity. She's not here, but we will make sure that we vote on that. The others come from also Council Member Douglas and Parity, and then there's the one with Council Member Lewis. We can open the conversation now in terms of if there are any questions. I'll go around with the mic and let you all discuss. We have a good 30 minutes to do this one, and then we will move forward to let you all vote for 20 minutes. Okay? Anybody that wants to begin? Council Member.
On the Police Network Investigation Program, I know some locations have been cleared from being PNIs. I'm wondering if other colleagues have seen new ones added in their communities, how those have gone. I would be satisfied with maintaining funding and attention around PNIs as opposed to increasing them. But I just don't know if other folks have had other experiences.
Thank you. So for the PNIs, just so everyone knows, I sit on the Councilman Gonzalez Gutierrez and I sit on the Safe and Healthy Communities subcommittee for the bond. And one of the requests that was tier 1 that we put through yesterday to the executive committee is specific funding dedicated to those PNI locations. So I would say this is really hard to do because we don't know what bond projects are going to make it through yet. But I also would hate to burn our political capital on, you know, asking for maintenance and funding for maintenance for current PNI locations, funding for new PNI locations, when that could potentially be a bond project that is coming through as well. So I don't know that gives us any like direction on what to do about this one. Maybe the mayor's office has some thoughts on that for us. But I think this is one of those situations where we have an opportunity to make sure that this is an important, that we make it clear this is an important priority for us. But also, we just talked about the fact that our goal is 3 priorities, and so if this is going to be in the bond, I don't want to waste this opportunity for it to be when we could have another priority that we're sharing it. I don't know what to do about that, so if anyone has any direction, I think that would be great.
One of the things I remember from the beginning process was some of that was grant funding, if I do remember correctly, and so we'll be getting federal grants soon. And so I guess that's also for the administration, like, have they applied for any more grants because they'd be really part of that with grant funding?
Can you pass it over to me? And then thank Councilman.
Thanks. This is switching the topic up a little bit, but I wanted to speak to one of Councilman Perry's submissions, which is the $10 million allocation for community grants focused on crime prevention, youth violence interruption, and other neighborhood safety strategies. This is really based on a really successful model that has gone on with the state legislature that the Colorado CCJRC has been deeply involved in and sent a letter around to council members, I believe, kind of fleshing this out a little bit, and the success of how that has worked with the state. But essentially, it would be administered by a third-party intermediary with experience in public safety grant management. They would oversee it, including data collection, technical assistance, and the idea is really to resource our community organizations that are doing a lot of violence prevention and community safety. Before it kind of touches some of our official criminal legal systems, right? Because we know that there's a lot of violence that occurs that never is reported. And so that is kind of speaking to that. If folks have questions,
Around the P&I sites, I guess it would be also a question of the administration to get us the exact breakdown of how all of that work was done, because it was my understanding that that there were ARPA funds that were used for lighting, etc., on private property, and so I've never gotten a report out of exactly how P&I sites were paid for in the city budget, and so it would be good to know. Grants were one thing, but the ARPA funds.
I think switching gears a little bit, I will just also say, I would like some more information from the administration about the AIDS Center and the success of it. The conversation we had last year was really around whether we're utilizing it to the best of its ability and whether we're getting our return on investment for it. That is also grant funded significantly, and so with the grants question we're having here, it's really hard for me to make a decision on, I think the AIDS Center has added value. I know that the Roads to Recovery program was considering using the AIDS Center, but then we had a presentation in Finville last week that we're actually going to purchase a building for the AIDS Center. So it seems like there's a lot of chaos around that, and I'm not sure. It's really hard without the right information or any information to make sure we're utilizing our points to the best of our abilities here.
Yes, I think you meant, Councilman, I think the building is being purchased for Roads to Recovery.
Did I say the AIDS Center?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
yes,
meant it's
yeah.
being purchased for Roads to Recovery. Thank you for clarifying, my bad. Got it.
Anything else? Any other discussions?
talk about the one that's
Yes,
of course.
that's why.
That's
why I looked at
So in light of the discussion around the granting, the federal administration, I would love for us to develop a local government task force that could develop strategies to ensure the protection in the event that there are federal disruptions. I mean, we've had some that may engage our vulnerable populations. So thinking about how we might have targeted actions and think about what additional funding options we might be able to take forward in the event that we don't get federal funding. And so really thinking about the protection of our communities. The task force could be council members, agencies, the mayor's office, to really think about how we might backfill, recreate, or protect ourselves in the light of the federal situation. So I would love to develop a task force that also can think about policies or even just think about additional revenue generation.
So going back to the P&I don't have any in my center, but I have proximity through the one that in Councilman Garcia district. I've heard a lot about it. I'm very familiar with it. I really like your idea, Councilman Torres, instead of increase, maintain funding. I think that we could actually, if we wanted to change that terminology, if you all felt comfortable with line 7 of saying maintaining it, because I do think that that is a priority. I have seen the concerted effort around 14th and Federal. I have seen it at Albuquerque Park. And so I have felt that. My sister-in-law lives right there, so there often. But I don't want to not see it on the letters because I really do feel like it is a priority. So I would just propose to all of you, if we could, on line 7, instead of it saying increased funding, could we say maintain funding and
Watson, is that a comment about that, or?
That is kind of a,
That was a ditto, so no additional comment.
Okay. A lot of the, cost of P&I is people's time to be in the same room together, to talk about what does fire know, what does EPD know, what does Dottie know in parks, and that's, I think, been, one of the valuable things. So it's not always just let's pay for something, it's also about getting the right people together to problem solve around the location, and then carry that out. That's why I think it's important. And even like if there's bond funding, like that's infrastructure costs, right? That's light, that is fencing. Those are things that those locations need. We got grant money with state, it was not federal, for lighting under a bridge, right? Like it's just infrastructure stuff like that will cost something over time. But honestly, it's just our city people's time to be in the same room together. The other item on the deputy monitor position, this has been a frozen position, I think, since Liz came in as monitor. And she can't continue with the growing police and fire and sheriff kind of contingent to be able to do the job that they have to do if they want the people to investigate. And so that I just want to emphasize why we're asking for that position to be unfrozen. And the maintain, is still discussion, or can we say that if we change the wording to maintain?
Well, it was about that.
Yeah.
All I was gonna say was I think we should change all three of the green ones to maintain star, maintain aid, and maintain physical investigation. Because I don't think there will be replacement.
Okay, so you want all to say maintain, or do you want to do the straw poll per item? Per item, okay. Yes.
I just want to add on to that language and maintain same level, so that it's like, not just like, oh, maintain this program, if that could still leave room for decreases to happen. So I would say maintain same level of funding.
So, but what if they can't maintain it? What are we going to tell them that we want to prioritize? Because if there's 20% cuts across the city, maintaining takes away from our other categories, and so just want to throw that out.
Okay, and then we'll go into the straw poll.
I'd like to make it more particularized and say maintain general fund level of support, because I don't want them to ignore the opportunities for any other grant funding.
Okay, so with that, we're looking at maintain general funding,
General fund support.
general fund support, but we're gonna do it per item. So let's do a straw poll for the first one for P&I. Who says that they wanna change that wording? If you can raise your hand. To maintain. So, okay, I'll wait.
It's just people's time, it's just staff.
It's that. Okay.
Although I will say, parks, I think, absorb a lot of temporary lighting in my feelings. Yeah, so I think there was some general fund costs.
Okay. What about the star, the star item, adding the maintain lingo to it? Okay, again, it's everybody. And then to the aid center, adding the terminology concerning maintain. How many of you will raise your hand for that one?
I don't want it to
Bill Mobile, I'm
be,
sorry.
I don't think increase, but maintain, if we're getting to prioritization, it is,
The aid center would probably be last on my list, as we're developing a variety of other strategies. So, aim to maintain, but not increase. I think I am in favor of changing from increase. So, the aim to maintain. You're keeping track of all this, Luke, okay? Because I'm keeping track of the numbers. Okay, so let's go ahead and,
And so I think one of the things that we've been having discussion over the last 2 rounds of budget on Aid Center is the administration providing clarity as to how the Aid Centers is fitting into the entire protocol. It has been, from my discussions with briefings, I have no idea what others have been hearing, but a Road to Recovery program, as well as all of it that I received a letter from, I think, 12 judges stating how important the Aid Center process is. And so for me, I think it is integral if we are looking at finding ways to reduce the number of folks who are staying in incarceration, to give them an alternative instead of that going to prison. Aid Center is part of that program, and so for me, that is one of my top priorities, and so I will be advocating that that is maintained within general funds, because I think without it, there's going to be a gap in road to recovery no matter what they are purchasing or wherever.
To maintain within,
And that's,
okay.
I think Councilmember Benjamin wants to say this. Yeah, the Aid Center has like really decreased operations. They only allow 15 people into the building at this point in time. They have decreased the number of days they're serving folks. Roads to Recovery had a 4-hour pilot per week, 2 hours one day, 2 hours the next. They did for a really brief amount of time, and we're not able to make it work because of operations challenges at the Aid Center. So Councilmember Parody is not allocating funds to this. I think she would advocate to actually not just maintain STAR's funding, but to increase it. I think part of that based on the negotiation we had with the mayor's office last year during the budget process when we retracted the amendment, because they committed to bringing $500,000 more to STAR this year. We haven't seen that yet, so I think that conversation is still in play. And then I'll also say just on STAR, we have received research studies at this point that show there are cost savings to having STAR as the responder, as opposed to other responses. So when it, in the larger conversation about city resources, I think that's important.
Perfect, okay, so can we go ahead and we'll do a straw poll for this one, for the Aid Center, from increase to aid. Do you want to change the wording? Raise your hand. Or do you want to keep it? If you want to change the wording, raise your hand to maintain it. To maintain, yes. So we're looking at, or aim to maintain, yes. Aim to maintain, let's go with aim to maintain. If you can raise your hand. No. Okay.
That's mean you have to allocate it.
Yes, yeah, it's not.
But if it,
Okay, yeah, just changing the wording, okay. So we're changing, so it's 9, so we are changing the wording. You have one more comment, another comment?
Yes. So, we're working right now for all of, I believe for all 3 of these is aim to, okay, for me, if we're aiming for STAR, I aim to increase. If the money becomes available, I aim to increase. As a least to maintain, I aim to increase there, I aim to maintain for Aid Center, and I don't know if kids are any part of them, it's maintaining, I forget exactly, but I aim to increase, STAR.
Okay. And, by the way, I don't know if you all noticed, but he has 3 bears on his jacket. So, and you're not, I'm sorry for taking a couple seconds. Play it. Oh. That's loud because I cannot say that word. Councilman,
You can't say the word now?
and I'm here, I'm here, come on.
I think what we're trying to say, this might be a bad suggestion, we want to increase funding, at least we did at our first get-together. We wanted to increase all 3, but now we have to not be practical. So instead of saying maintain, maybe we should say do not decrease. That leaves the option open to maintain current level, and increasing the funding becomes available. As long as we specify general fund, because grant funding, you know, we can get, we should get all we can. But it might sound clunky to say do not decrease.
General fund.
Rather than.
That's what you want to say,
Exactly.
do not decrease general fund. We want to do
If
another
that's too
straw poll.
clunky, it's too clunky, but I think that's what I'm hearing, especially from Councilman Cash. If there's an opportunity to increase STAR funding, if there's money available, that's good. If we say maintain, we're saying don't bother increasing. That's your concern.
That's what I want to say, aim to.
Right.
Okay.
Councilmember, I agree, and on your earlier point about having to do all this pretzeling because of the uncertainty of the administration, I think applies there. So I recognize that it's not the most elegant of wording. We kind of are doing some pretzeling because, you know, and also the conversation in March versus now, it's also part of the pretzeling. So I support that.
So with that, that means,
I just wanted to second Cashman's point about the increase.
so what I'm hearing is you might want to, Maria's laughing. We might want to do a straw poll very quickly. We have to do it now because the time is coming to the end concerning this goal, where it says more, do not decrease from the general funding. You know, not use the word aim, it's do not decrease. If we want to do a straw poll about that, or if it doesn't pass, then we keep the aim to. Does that work? Okay, I'm gonna facilitate, I'm gonna go forward with this. Okay, when it comes to the P&I, do you want to change the wording to say do not decrease from the general funding, however you want to do it? If you can raise your hand. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, with that, we're staying with the aim.
Can we do that again? I think that was 105.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, can you raise your hand again? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh. Oh, what it is with the P&I is instead of saying of maintain, it's do not decrease from the general funds. Okay, Rick, can you raise your hands again? My apologies, and I'll start now.
Everything across the city is getting introduced. It's happening, so we don't want it to be decreased.
And if there's extra funds, then it's like, okay, can go to that. Do you want to say something?
I know this Councilman wording is kind of a pain, but especially in this tight budget, I think we need to be clear what our priorities are. So I don't want them to think, well, yeah, sure, if you have money, then raise everything. I mean, I'm on the side of not thrilled with the Aid Center. I am thrilled with STAR. As I said, I'm kind of in the middle on P&I. So I want to be sure that we're being clear on council priorities.
So with, okay.
For more clarity, instead of do not decrease, maintain or increase. Because what we're trying to say is, we want, if there's money available in the general fund, we want this thing increased. So maybe do not decrease, like I said, it was clunky. How about maintain or increase general fund support for ABC?
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is, okay guys, you know I'm an engineer, I do not like wordsmithing. We will do this. P&I, maintain or increase from the general funds. Who will agree, straw poll, to change that wording to that? Okay, so we're looking at, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 of the, Megan, are you voting or no, you're not? No, okay, so, okay, 10. So we have 10, that will go forward. Luke, for STAR, the same thing, maintain or increase. Who wants to change it to that from, right now it says maintain general fund funding. Do you want to add maintain and increase general fund funding for STAR program expansion. Or maintain or increase, yes. Raise your hand. Start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. And then for the aid center is maintain or increase general fund funding and use of the aid center. Again, do you want to change it to that? Raise your hand. I have to do a straw poll, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one will not change, okay? Luke?
Just want to make sure that the current language for aid center is aim to maintain. Is that what we're going with? That's what the last.
Yeah, that was from the last straw
Okay,
poll, yes.
keep it.
Okay, with that said,
And for the record, Elizabeth, I didn't raise my hand for any of those, because I think if we're stating what we want, we should state it. If we wanted to increase, we should say increase. If we want to maintain, we should say maintain. If we want to decrease, we should say decrease. So I didn't vote on any of those.
okay, perfect, okay. So let's go ahead and take 5 minutes to vote. Is it updated, Luke?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then we're done.
Really quick, I really liked Councilwoman Lewis's task force suggestion, so just wanted to give my support on that.
Okay, so let's go and take the next couple minutes, 5 minutes, and then we will go into goal number 2.
Typing and it's not letting me.
Luke, she's typing. You do not want to do that with the. No, we do not. We do not want to have the attorney not be able to explain them.
We'll give everyone access.
Okay, wow. That's hard.
I remember the eighth grade one.
I remember she rubbed it in very nicely.
You gotta vote for all of them.
And remember, it's 20 points and it's whole numbers, no 0.5s, please, or 0.3s.
It's still not
Give me just 1 second.
Councilman, get your way.
what about Councilman Russo?
Is it working?
Thank you.
And for all you council members, I'm gonna be noticed that I switched to goal number 2 so people don't see the scoring. I know you all can see it, but I don't want.
I'm not using it. I have an extension cord. I have my phone battery. Okay. I've had people like come in and I don't know any comments. I mean, at least like the microphones, so everyone could hear. So I think that helps. So ridiculous. They have us in these uncomfortable chairs.
Okay, did everybody?
Also, like, not showing
I guess maybe.
I know, right?
Okay, so everybody, did everybody vote? Just raise your hand if you're still voting. You're not voting, okay.
Cashman, you got 19 points there.
Sorry, I'm gonna see if I can get better.
We're good?
Now you're down to 13.
I'm working.
You got it?
Everyone's voted.
Okay, everybody's good? Okay, so let's go ahead and do goal number 2. We will have a quick break after goal number 3. So goal number 2 is empower communities, which is improve customer service by listening to and learning from residents, ensure open access to information and opportunities to participate and co-create, protect civil and human rights in communities vulnerable to discrimination and oppression. Here we have 9 proposals, so I am going to open it up. We have a good 25 minutes to discuss this, and who will want to go? We have 3 from prior, and the rest were offered now.
Thanks. I just have a clarifying question. For those who voted to retain the proposal, I did not because it's done, was create the long overdue create needed Office of Community Empowerment. So the reason I didn't vote to retain that proposal is because they created it. So I just want to have a quick conversation before we move on about the language of this one, if it's going to be potentially a retained proposal. Because I'm curious if we should change this language to say something different because they created it. So maybe it's like, you know, appropriately fund and staff the newly created Office of Community Empowerment or something like that. So just wanted to ask before we kind of get further into the conversation, whether that's something council members might be open to, wordsmithing, just because of that.
Okay. Any?
It is going to be a real crapshoot as far as if you're talking about hiring fresh FTEs. I think the goal is to hire the director, and the director will pilot appropriate engagement folks from other departments perhaps, or develop a structure for the future. I think I would be fine with worded as you say, you know.
I can't remember what I said.
You said staff appropriate. Resources program.
Right.
So, what we have on the table here is the staff and resource appropriately, like the staff and, okay. Anybody else that wants to do that, because then we have to move to the other one. So anybody else that wants to comment about it before we do a quick straw poll? So let's go ahead and do a quick straw poll. Do you want to add the staff and resource appropriate? So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 8. So go ahead, Luke, and change that. Now, with that changed, let's go ahead and open the conversation for that and the remaining priorities. I mean, proposals, not priorities. Anybody wants to talk? It's open floor discussion now for goal number 2.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Well, she raised it. Okay. Yeah, no.
I was cutting you like.
Then you, so and then,
I was saying we're both A's and we're both S's. So I have a question for Councilman Ford. For number 10, expand outreach and education expectations of HRCC offices, I understand that one. The anti-discrimination offices, Office of Aging and Office of Financial Empowerment. Do you think that is a budget, like do they need more budget or do they need more, or just explain that to me more, because I want to know if it does have like a fiscal note attached to it. Does that make sense?
I have no doubt they would likely say they wouldn't require additional dollars, but I think people can do a lot more than I'm seeing them do right now. So I don't necessarily think additional budget, because you don't need more people. You definitely need information in sharing in more places, yeah. So this is not necessarily a budget, it's more of a policy ask for the agency to wrap that up.
So the 2 other retained proposals, I just wanted to ask about as well. So for line 8, the participatory budgeting, do we want to ask for this to be expanded, or do we, same thing with kind of STAR, do we want to make it clear that we don't want this to be reduced? Because we feel, or to go away, because we feel it is so important, you know, the community participatory budgeting piece. So question 1, and then question 2, line 9, improving neighborhood involvement. Does that have budget dollars associated with it? Or is that just really something that needs to happen and can be done, you know, without budget neutral? And I'm just not sure, because we talked about it last year.
My residents have been asking for that one for 3 years, and we've been told it's a tax services budget cost.
Got it, okay, great.
So I think for number 9, I'm gonna go into the radical, as well as zoning application. In the equity and rezoning that we all approved, changing our 3 criteria, we are changing the rezoning process and the rezoning notification. So we've approved that, they're just building it out. So if we want, I would say wordsmithing once again, I would just take out as well as the rezoning process, because that was on that equity and rezoning that Councilman Alvidas and I were on. It was all about expanding it. They're gonna change the language. They're notifying renters now. And that is something that was in that policy that we passed when we changed those 3 criteria.
My
clarifying question on that is, they're notifying renters through the postcard mailer. This is the e-notification, which is largely on the tax side, for when an application is filed, and RNOs get that information. So you can opt into receiving information.
They'll just give it to you when the application goes live.
You know what I mean? Like, how will they know renter emails? So it's that, like, I wanna know everything that's happening in Villa Park neighborhood, right? Every time there's a rezoning, a liquor store.
Yeah, okay, so that eliminating the rezoning is not gonna happen. Okay, okay, perfect. And we will.
If it's on that, it's on the call.
I guess they would know who the renters are because we have the rental license. And so those,
Do they do their email?
yeah, I mean, that should be, I guess I would just leave that as an outlier. I mean, we can keep it in here, but the rental license, they would have all of the rentals that are licensed in the city, and so they should be able to notice them. And I thought that with excise and licensing, that was being worked on, but I'll just leave it there. But there is a way to get those back in them.
But not the tenant, just the landlord.
They're true, but you can mail directly to the rental.
And
that's what they will do.
They will
They
do
will
that.
mail to
For the planning board public hearing, they will mail to the renters in that 200 foot instead, yeah.
Are we okay to move on to a new topic?
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to participatory budgeting, I'm comfortable with saying expand because it's not like we're hiring new FTEs. It's just kind of shifting some money around and we're not asking for $50 million type of thing. But the main thing, ultimately, I think participatory budgeting is a no-brainer to relocate to the Office of Community Empowerment. I don't know if this is an appropriate place to say that, even if my colleagues agree.
What else? Councilwoman Gonzalez Gutierrez, did you have your hand?
No,
Okay. So, okay.
I would be supportive of the participatory budget. For an increase, but it's going to be a change.
Yeah, yes,
I'm gonna do a few. I'm gonna do 2 million additional funds to the Immigrant Services Legal Fund. This is on behalf of Councilmember Kennedy. So here's some information for you all. Immigrants are 10 times more likely to succeed in their cases when they have representation. Colorado is tied for last place in the nation in the percentage of people who have legal representation in immigration court, which is 14%. The largest guarantee of the fund was most recently funded at $322,505 below the level they applied for. And so this application was before the current federal tax on immigration service providers, including a stop work order that cut 25% of the budget and later that's cutting all funding for representation of unaccompanied migrant children. So Megan will probably be better to answer some of these questions, but I'll do my best if you all have questions for that one. I also have two, let me make sure I have all the prepared. Excuse me, I'm a little unprepared for illness today. I have two for myself, funding the expansion of Denver Days citywide, and then the second is the conversation we had about standing up district-specific websites, other technology services at the Denver Gov websites to ensure ease of access and continuity of services across council offices. Maybe this is a priority, maybe it's not. This probably could be a priority in 2026, honestly.
6, you want it 2024?
Thank you. I do have a question regarding the Immigrant Services Legal Fund. We have, but this is the only one that we've had come across that has a specific number to it, and just wondering a little bit more about the number. Is it to increase, or is that what we think the need is?
Is Megan here?
One moment.
I am here, hold on, I'm typing.
Okay. So in the meantime, yeah, go ahead, and then we'll go through it.
So Councilmember Lewis, for your 14, funding the expansion for Denver Day Citywide. So the website's built out, they have teams for it. Does it need a budget cost to it? Because I don't think it does. Like if I go in on the website, they provide the barricades and everything for me. I just think it's more allocating staff like Neely and Alex and all of them in the mayor's office to do more education on it.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer to that, to be honest with you. I was thinking about different days in terms of like expanding the number of days. But maybe
And you're talking website, okay.
Clear is kind.
I wasn't very clear.
I thought she was quite clear.
We've been expanding the number of days, so it's like 2 weeks.
Yes. Right. Okay, and then to answer your question, the answer is similar contingency to mayor's legal money for DC. Urgent need to cover the lost funding of local boards. The fund is typically at $750K, which is far below the levels needed with the massive legal support needs we are seeing. We have spoken to some of the current grantees of the DILS, and they have reflected back money needs that make us think $2 million is a good ballpark. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Was it? I don't know. She's not free, so I'm gonna go. I have good news. We can eliminate line 11, the reevaluate the real property search page. It has been done. So, one last thing for all of you to vote. Number 11, real property. I just put in the chat the link that Councilman Flynn just shared with me. He worked with Doug Yenzer to modify this, and I just tested it on my phone, and it is much better, like exponentially better. So we can get rid of that one. Good. We go down to 8 proposals.
I want to go back to Denver Days in the council list.
Okay.
This year, we discovered that the administration put a limit of 50 events that they will support, and I believe this is the first year there was a cap on it.
And the size of the universe.
Yeah, so I think expand might. Yes. Yes. So I'm wondering I don't know what's going on the third floor on this, but to say this year we'll only support 50, I know that last year one of my neighbors that wanted to have one was told that they couldn't, and my office provided the funding to provide barricades and all that. So I think not just expanding the number of days, which I would definitely support. I mean, I think every day is a Denver day, so. I do. So we could expand the number of days to like 400. But specifically, I want to point out that we are limiting the numbers this year. I don't know that that's a good thing because we have staff that delivers barricades. I mean, what is the additional funding? It doesn't seem to be a lot.
Anything else? Any other discussion? I know we have to talk about the wording.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say is, cause I made 2 comments and one of them got counted there as line 8, expand the participatory budgeting program. Do we want to expand it, or do we want to have a conversation about saying, do not get rid of this program when you're making policy?
Okay.
And if so, do we need to change language?
So the language needs to go maintain or grow, rather than expand, maintain or grow the participatory budgeting program in 2025. 2026. No. That year. So can we go ahead and do a straw poll about that? Do you agree to change it from expand to maintain or grow? Who agrees? Raise your hand.
Ask the mayor's administration, because I think that we need more information.
Okay.
Because we know there's gonna be positions.
And
If he increases the year.
Because it does take people.
yeah, it takes people, so.
I
don't have that information, but I will be sure that it is in the report out when we give it to you. So you're asking for, will there be positions available to run Denver Days in 2026? Is that a
Participatory.
Oh, sorry. Why don't I just try and text someone really quick and see if I can find that information out?
Okay.
Just if you want to increase it, and then it would be.
And we have to do this PSA between each of these. My recommendation to my colleagues is that we ask specifically what we want. If we're saying we want it to increase, we should say increase. If we're saying we want it to decrease, but discontinue, maintain, or increase. I know, but it's, I'm saying as for my responsibility as a city council member, I'm saying we want this increase. The mayor can negotiate however they want to, whether there's budget cuts, whatever else comes from them. But this is our process from my perspective. If I'm saying I want something increased, we should say increase.
Okay. Yes.
I agree with Councilmember Watson entirely. I think the question I'm asking is a political one.
Yeah.
Right? It looks very tone deaf for us to be asking for things to be increased when we know, or we have heard rumors, we don't actually know any, because we haven't gotten any information from the mayor's office, but when we're asking for increases, when they're talking about, furloughs and layoffs and budget cuts and all the things, it looks tone deaf.
So don't ask for it, that's my point.
Well, I think I want to be clear that this is an incredibly important program that we don't want to disappear. And I suspect we will see some programs disappearing in 2026. So that's the balance that's why I'm saying that, but I hear you 100% and I agree with you. I just think we need to be cognizant of not looking tone deaf, given what we're hearing. But we don't actually know, because we've been given no information.
On that. That's
Right back.
So,
Okay, so due to time, we still need to figure out if you want to change the wording. Can we go ahead, go forward with that? We will figure out when the mayor's office responds back to the text. But what we're asking. So I'm going to go and start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 10. So we will change that wording, Luke, in terms, and also the year of 2026. You already did it. Any other discussion? We have 5 minutes left of discussion before you vote. Okay.
Maintain and grow is new wording. I think we should be consistent so that the mayor's not going, what's the difference between aim to increase and maintain and grow? So whatever it is, I think we should be consistent.
Yeah. So we have to go
You gotta
back.
make it easier on the mayor's team.
Okay, so what does that mean that we have to change the wording from the prior goal? Councilman Cashman?
I would say that's what you want to do.
Okay. I know you all have voted. Is that okay to go from A to increase to maintain or grow? Even the prior one. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's a wordsmith that you all will have to figure out before the letter, if that is a top priority. Anything else before we start voting? I know some of you already started voting. Thank you for doing that. Overachievers, A+ students, valedictorians. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I'll mention it to you. Luke?
Yes.
Where we mentioned HRCP, you can take off the specific offices.
Okay.
Just leave it HRCP offices or divisions.
And after this vote, we will do goal number 3, and then we will have a break. Who is still voting? Raise your hand. 4 minutes.
It's crazy. It's wild.
Okay, are we done with the voting? Okay, so let's go ahead and go to goal number 3, and this one is a long one, it has 11 proposals, and it's address Denver's housing needs, which is ensure the people of Denver are housed, improve the availability, diversity, and stability of housing, meet the needs of those vulnerable to homelessness, and implement proven and innovative methods to mitigate involuntary displacement. So let's go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
I'm just wondering with number 110, has that already been done with the new office that Jill and James Gullick is heading, or is this something new?
Who would know that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Can we ask somebody?
She's done.
Do that?
It could be, I remember the history on the original goal.
Angela, and she may not have,
The history on the first goal around permitting, I think that came from wanting to encourage small developers to, build affordable or include affordable in their development. But that, because they didn't already know how to do it, they didn't know what kind of entry point, so concierge kind of, point of contact or portal or something to walk them through, here's what a covenant and a deed restriction, etc. Is that potentially accomplished with Jill Jennings' Golish's new position in permitting? Can she be that, basically?
You need to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, are we able to make your screen a little bit, so folks can see that?
bigger, the problem
Based on what the goal says, it seems to me that it would probably be a combination of Jill Jennings' Village office, Denver permitting office, and a part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. I think that would be, you could remove that.
So can you say that again?
I do think Councilman McCassin's point is well taken, that number 7 has been accomplished, with the permitting office, and permitting office has 280 people under it, and then with the AHART, with the, permitting, that gets at the affordability for private development. So I do think it's,
Yeah, and there'll be one point of contact so there'll be one point of contact for each development. So they have their own, like it says there, their own concierge.
Yeah.
in the, so at later through the process. Can we eliminate that?
That's number 7.
Oh, straw poll, I'm sorry. Okay, those of you that want to eliminate that because it seems that it has been completed, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody voted for that, so we can eliminate that. And then now we can open the discussion for the 10 that are remaining there.
Thank you. So I sent everybody in the chat a couple of documents just kind of outlining a little bit of information about the need for TRUA to continue that program, of course. And I know, again, like, this is part of the difficult conversation, but I think this speaks to what I've heard everyone around the table talk about is basic needs, most vulnerable, and knowing that, you know, we're in a tight budget year, but so are our residents. And they're feeling the impact as well. And so I think it is relevant to ask for an increase in this. And going off of Councilman Watson and say, we want an increase, let's ask for an increase. And that is because year over year, the number of evictions has increased by 24%. And so if we are investing the amount of money that's being invested in All in Mile High, in all of the homelessness programs, which is absolutely necessary, we also need to be able to invest on the other end to keep people from becoming homeless. I know you all are probably tired of hearing me say this every year, but it is necessary, and I'm just incredibly concerned about what we're going to see happening with the issues that we're facing with the economy and what that means for people in our city. And with that, I will say, you know, we also have the roundtable that's occurring right now, the residential health roundtable, and that is with a lot of partners at the table, with our tenant folks, our tenant organizations, DDPHE, council, the mayor's office. And I think the goal there is that they will come up with policies to help address the need so that we're not just continuing to increase TRUA dollars, but we're also getting at the root of the issue. And so they're kind of a two-part, right? So we need the rental assistance to continue to help people coming forward in this coming year. And then we need to continue to support the policies that will come out of that work group.
Thanks. I think Councilwoman Gonzalez-Gutierrez is exactly right. I will just say, on line 9, the property tax rebate program, so just recall everyone, we moved that from veto to host, so we need to update that language. I will also just say that that property tax rebate program has been funded at $4.5 million for the last couple of years. It is first come, first served. Councilman Gilmore and I are working right now with Host on, and we'll be bringing you soon some language changes to kind of open up that program to ensure that homeowners are receiving those kinds of same TRUA benefits as our renters do. So just flagging for everyone that line 9, it's essentially TRUA for homeowners right now, and will continue to be that in the future. So I agree with Councilwoman Gonzalez-Gutierrez. I would just say that I would ask council members to think through that they're separate, homeowner piece and renter piece, and that both need that funding.
Thank you. And along those same lines, I think it was very eye-opening for me during the All in Mile High briefing to hear that jobs are the number one reason why people become homeless. And so I would say the same thing about the workforce pipeline, that also contributes to preventing homelessness.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez-Gutierrez, line 10. Not a complete sentence to me. What's the ask in line 10? If there are funding or policy recommendations that may result in funding, as recommended by the residential health stakeholder group, then what?
Then we pass those policies.
Funding.
Yeah, and funding, right? Because it's a policy and a funding. So we would need to put forth a policy that would probably have funding attached to it. switching gears and going to line 7, please expand funding for ADU construction assistance. I would like to take it back to, maintain and make sure we don't defund or however, whatever language. We just got our first, West Denver Renaissance Collaborative ADU in Chappie Park. And, I was able to, tour it, and they use the West Denver Renaissance Collaborative, and it is for a multi-generational house. They're moving their mom into the backyard, and then they're going to release the house on the 38th and Mapan to a family member to stop gentrification, and so I think it's a great anti-gentrification tool. And so I want to make sure that we keep the funding for ADUs, especially since they're citywide now, and that is a priority. So I would just propose to maintain whatever language we were using so that we don't lose funding. I can't remember what that was.
Cashman said they should put the grandma in the ADU, not in the backyard.
I cannot kill you, dog.
I would say that sounded pretty cruel, you
It could be the,
know? It was your mother.
especially if it was the mother-in-law, then it's okay, that's okay.
Here you go.
Thank you so much, and Councilmember Sandoval, I was going to speak to ADUs. We supported it, I think 13-0. It is a priority, has been a priority for a long time. I think the language of expand is where I would ask for to stay. And I think the Westwood, actually, I can't remember the name of it. West Denver Collaborative process is amazing, and I think we should be able to identify dollars to expand it across the city. And then number 10, I think it's essential that we identify funding from the outcomes from that residential health stakeholder group. The idea that we are funding for folks being evicted and folks needing rental assistance, that is fantastic. We keep doing that, but this group is going to identify kind of the base as to why this is happening, and those outcomes should be funded.
And that goes to, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lewis and then.
Oh, yes, that happened quickly. Okay, so I have a few, for Councilwoman Parady's, proposals. Okay, so the first one is, 5 to 7 million to create a revolving loan fund for social housing. This would offer upfront capital to build social housing projects that would then offer city-owned mixed-income developments, the rents of which would pay off the cost of construction and then go back to the loan fund for building new developments along that same model, which would be sustainable funding model, which is based on the Montgomery County area. And then, just a few more. So she's asking for $4 million to increase pursued staff compensation rates across all host contracts. This is in the context of our service providers. So she wants to be able to increase the pay of those that are providing services within within host. So it could be like Salvation Army or CCH, et cetera. So those employees directly. And then $300K for 2 full-time host positions. A housing policy analyst and a homeless prevention expert. Happy to answer any questions.
If you can pass it to Roberto.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I had a question about the one housing sales tax rate plan for future revisit for housing sales tax.
13.
Line 13. Can you say a little bit more about this? I feel like we have a lot of strategies out there, but we think about this being more comprehensive plan.
If the administration would like to go back to voters for a sales tax, like 2R, there should be planning done ahead of time to identify, here's what we believe 100 million should be spent on. The areas, the opportunities, voters, I think, need to know what that package would look like, which was, I think, one of the biggest critiques about that. Put together kind of everything that host and economic development and our council offices have been talking about when it comes to where we could use more funding for housing strategies, and actually package it, put it into something to present to voters.
Does it require funding?
Yes.
I think it just requires the time of city personnel to do it, and that costs something, right? Like,
And do we have the minutes of the
I have, made that ask to the mayor, and so I have, started thinking about a process, and I pitched it to host, and I pitched it to CPD, and I pitched it to, the mayor's office. I don't have anything concrete yet, but it is something, as someone who had, brought the link together, the drafter of it, I have been thinking about that, so I just want you to know that I don't have anything to share out yet, but I have made that ask very clearly numerous times since January. And I think that there is a commitment from the mayor's office and a commitment from Mayor Johnston himself to make sure that we, if that were to happen again, to do it very differently. So I will say that.
I appreciate that clarification. I don't know how to vote on this because I wish that there had been a plan before, but I don't intend to support any future sales tax increases myself, just speaking for myself. I don't want to add more to the cost of living in this city, particularly with a regressive tax of the amount that was proposed initially. So I'm up in the air on the vote on that.
Anything else? I know we have to do one wordsmithing on item 7 on line 7, which is the aspect of changing expand to maintain or grow, or whatever the verbiage is going to be across all the goals.
Councilman Watson, I understand your
Yeah.
concern with state want to expand. I just don't think that in all of the years, Councilman Torres and I have done budget amendments to add more money into that fund. I don't think it's been drawn down completely yet, and so that's why I just want to say maintain for sure if it has to compete with other resources. I will say that the ADU that I went into, that I toured, he had ARPA funds as well as the grant fund from Denver, and they no longer, Habitat for Humanity no longer has those ARPA funds. But when I met with, Denver Housing Authority and, Habitat for Humanity in that home, I said, do you have enough funding for the queue that you have in 2025? And they said yes. So that's why I just don't know if we want to expand it right now or if we want to maintain it. I don't know where that fund balance is at, but I do know you have to income restrict that. You have your unit at 80% AMI, so either the renter has to qualify or the homeowner has to qualify, and it's the qualifying part that takes much longer, and that's why the funding doesn't always get drawn down as much.
And Council President, I agree with you. My thought for the expand was the existing funds we know has not been spent down, but we know other parts of the city, I know I'm getting, blown up across the east side saying, yo, I want my ADU. Actually, I had a meeting with 2 residents yesterday about the ADU, so I'm with you on that.
So can we move forward to do a straw poll concerning going from expand to maintain or grow? Or is there any other comments? And then we will continue the conversation for the rest. Can we do a quick straw poll? So let's do a quick straw poll at the ADUs, line item 7, move from expand, use the word maintain or grow, or whatever wording at the end you all agree with. Raise your hands. Who was able to change it? 8. There's 8. So we'll move forward. Yeah, that's over 7. Yeah. We'll move forward with changing that.
Thanks. Just one more real quick one. On line 9, as I'm reading it, it asks to establish an administrator position. That has been established, yeah, they've done that. So let's, if you don't mind, supporting the change in the language and taking that part out, that'd be great.
Is everybody fine with that, to change that? Okay. Luke, you do that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Councilwoman Lewis, you have your hand up?
Yeah.
I just have a question for Senate, or for Councilman Gonzalez about your proposal in the TRUA. How many evictions are they predicting for 2025? And then how much money are you hoping to be able to secure?
Thank you. Yeah, so you all got the document. There are some kind of data points there and graphs. So for 2024, eviction filings by year, it went up from, I'm not reading it for some reason, I didn't even with my glasses. But it went up from I think it was like 14,000, went up to 16,000. And so the projection is that it will increase another 24% on the number of filings. So, you know, doing some math there, I don't have that exact number, but I can get that. But it will continue to increase, and especially with the things that people are facing with the economy. The amounts that, you know, in working with some of the stakeholders and partners that actually disperse these funds and also provide like the case management and all those things, because remember, TRUA isn't only the rental and utility assistance, it's also the case management that these providers are also doing to help people so that they're not just continuing to need the funds to pay for their rent, but they're actually getting help to address the needs going forward so that it's not just a constant revolving door. The amount that we're looking at is increasing by $5 million. So right now, this year, we allocated $25 million. So it would be a request to increase that by $5 million based on the projections and continued increases.
Thank you.
And the evicting number that you said that goes up 24%, it goes up to then to 19,840.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I always have a calculator.
Thank you. So just for clarification, I remember last year we did a restricted or reserved dollars to increase the funding for TRUA. Is this that become the new base for what TRUA is, and then the request is on top of that?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify what the base is. Thank you.
I don't think we've ever been at the base. We've never been at the amount that we actually need. And we just look at
I'm
contingency.
talking about like what it was funded at last year, and then you did a reserve, additional allocation on top of that. Did that change the total? Are we now working like that is the amount that's allocated to TRUA moving forward, or did it go down?
I think that's under discretion of the mayor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to figure out where it's gonna come from, because I don't know that that's the point of the conversation that we're having. It's just that the ask is about the priority, and I think the priority is to increase the fund so that we can continue to meet the demand.
Thanks. I will say one of the things that we have talked about in the past is our eviction right to counsel legislation and the dollars associated with that. So former Councilman Sedevaca and I moved that many years ago. When we calculated the need for that many years ago, the need was $4.5 million a year. It has never been funded at $4.5 million a year. So I do think that could fit under some of these priorities that we're talking about here. I wonder if you all think we should call that out specifically, or whether you're comfortable that it fits under all these some of these priorities here. Just want some feedback on that.
Yes, so I'm happy to modify if it's not on there appropriately, but the request that I had on this line item was for both TRUA and eviction legal defense.
Okay.
So it is for both. Yeah.
Can you add it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can it be added, Luke?
What was it again? Line 11.
TRUA,
Line 11.
It's
line
911.
to add eviction legal defense.
Add it,
Eviction legal defense.
911, okay. Anything else? We have a couple minutes left for any further discussion about these 10 proposals. Well, let's go ahead and take your time to go ahead and vote. And we will then take a break, and the break will be until 10:50. So, 10:55, I'm sorry, until 10:55, the break will be. So once you're done voting, let's go for the break.
Just a little bit of bias.
Absolutely. And thank you for making that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Sitting over here.
Nobody's told me. I mean, she kicked me off.
She kicked you out of the hall. Looks like. All right, I just need a charge and.
Yeah, same.
Sorry to keep getting it.
No, I don't care.
Are you with one of the council groups or a community group? Or?
I'm with a community group.
I'm with Denver 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're with the Denver Task Force to Reimagine Policing and Public Safety.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Fun. They're mostly council meetings here.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good y'all are here.
Yeah, we wanted to be.
With Dr. Davis and Lisa.
Yeah. Dr. Davis is right over there
Oh, is
talking
he?
with Megan, with Councilwoman Parody's office.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then we have another one of our members, and then CCJRC is here too.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. Other than
This
that,
is like an herbal spot. It's sort of better.
yeah. Yeah.
At least I can kick my leg.
Right.
I have a terrible hamstring right now.
Yeah, those chairs, they're not the most comfy.
No, and I think mine, either I broke it or it was slightly broken. I was like, I'm going to fall into the mayor's staff, which I don't.
Yeah, no, I think they're all they have a little.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely did not feel the safest. Nope, that won't be wrong. I literally run like.
Oh my god, you're so smart.
I'm like, I don't know what is going to be available and not available for us up there.
Yeah, totally.
Well, if you could do something to make sure the lighting is good out there.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
If you need me to pose and
Did you need me to come and do like some blots so you're not too shiny?
Councilman. I wanted to see what his bears were that they were talking
Am I in your way?
No, you're fine.
Okay. You could wave. Let me know if
Oh,
you
you're
please. There's the corner one.
Well, I at least listen. I need like a beanbag. That's what I want. It's lazy, but
That sounds lovely.
doesn't it seem great?
Like at the last one they did at Carla Madison, the staff had tables
Oh, that's great.
too. The visitors didn't. We just had a few chairs set aside on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
I am really bad at staff had tables.
Thank you.
Gotta go.
Sounds good. Anything else?
I think he did. Yeah.
Cool.
Standing up a little bit.
Totally.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the council members, if they can come to the table. Okay, let's go ahead and get this started. Okay, council members, if we can come to the table.
Lotus, bring her own hot sauce.
She has it all the time. She does. She has it every single. She has it.
And she has two, look at this. She has two, she doesn't have
That
one.
deserves special recognition.
No, that's every, I started Mark. She went right out of Mark, okay.
100% step up and defend that. You're doing the right thing.
Never had happy for everybody.
Oh, wait, to say that. Over there.
You know what, for the next one, Louis, I'm gonna bring my adobo. So you can ask me that.
Thank you, because it should be a collection.
I have an adobo.
I have the small ones too.
Oh my God, look at this. No,
It's
no,
for the
no.
airplane.
For the airplane. Oh my God, wow, wow.
I love it. You can be able to recycle.
Okay, let's go ahead and get.
Somebody's here.
Okay. Before we begin, let's do this. Who's here?
Let's just go with us.
Yeah, I mean, let's go ahead. No, I want to make sure that, I mean, this is support workers and businesses. So can we have all the council members at the table, please? So we can do goal 4, which is support workers and businesses. We are very strong meeting for that too. Another person did not. Exactly. So they could spend money. Exactly. We have everybody? Okay. We're missing a couple that we'll go ahead and start. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me start with some logistics. We will be breaking at 12:30 for lunch. That way, and lunch is going to be an hour, and it's not a working lunch. It's an opportunity for you to eat, for you to go walk. Whoever has not been in this mansion before, I recommend for you to just walk around or just go outside. It's absolutely beautiful. So, number 2, we heard recommendation concerning that we cannot, the people sitting in back cannot read the different proposals for each goal. What I'm going to do is, we have done it, made it as large as possible. Obviously, this does not show the entire proposals. But what I'll do is, if we're talking about number 9, I will read number 9 out loud before the council members start talking about number 9. That way, everybody in the audience knows what's going on. So, yes?
Could we have access to the documents, like, pull it up on our?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's on Registrar, if you go, yeah, not this one, but a PDF version of it. You can update it live on Registrar, but the original draft is up there.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So let's go ahead and thank you for being back. And we're going to do goal number 4, which is support workers and businesses. And this one is improve economic mobility and opportunity, empower workers and incubate businesses citywide, focus on our small and local business sector, support a strong network of community organizations. This has 8 proposals. Let's go ahead and open the floor for this. I'll go with Council President Sandoval and then Councilwoman Sawyer.
Thank you. I have a question for number 7, adequately fund Veto's Business Impact Opportunity Fund. And then number 11, develop a sustainable funding source. Oh, so they are different. Okay, so is one a funding source and one is maintaining the funding?
That's what I was just.
Okay, so you're going to.
Thank you.
So, we're talking about number 7 and line 7 and line 11. Do you want me to read them out again?
Yeah, if you want to read, yeah.
Line 7 is adequately fund Veto's Business Impact Opportunity Fund. Line 11 is develop a sustainable funding source for the bio fund. So Councilwoman Almendrez and Councilman Hines and I have a meeting with the Department of Finance on Tuesday morning. We have asked Vito a number of questions about the bio fund. We've asked a number of businesses about this kind of usefulness of the bio fund as it exists right now, and there need to be some changes made to it. The question is what those changes will be. I will say right now the way the bio fund works is it's essentially $17,000, $2,000 at the beginning of the project to do marketing, website, all of those different kinds of things to try and build an online presence for people who can't access the business as easily during the construction process. And then that additional money is lost revenue, and you have to prove that you lost that revenue, et cetera. But it's not enough. What we're hearing from our businesses is it's not enough, right? So I think, and I don't want to speak for Vito, but I think they are having conversations right now about, a potential menu that might be more successful in supporting our businesses than just sort of this $17,000 that's just not quite enough. That menu needs to be determined and is very dependent on the Department of Finance and their opinion on this. So I would like to maybe propose that we connect line 7 and line 11 and just say something like continue to find ways to support our businesses that are impacted by city construction projects, and just sort of keep it simple and broad. We can wordsmith that if you want to, but this one, it's just very fluid right now, and so I would like to change the language on that and combine those two, if that's okay with everyone.
Can you repeat the language about?
No.
Wait,
Robert's coming.
Should they continue to find ways to support our businesses impacted by city construction projects?
Okay. Perfect.
Can I just speak to that one?
Okay.
Are you speaking to this?
Or you? Okay.
Oh, you don't.
No, you raised your hand. But it was not about this.
Okay.
I'm looking at you.
Thank you. I support that, and I really appreciate your consistency on this, because we've heard from folks about the impacts to their businesses from construction from the city. So thank you for keeping your eye on this, and I would definitely support the moving over to.
Council President, you had something for this one? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote straw before we change the topic? Is there anything else to discuss that?
I just wanted to also say I support all of that, and thank you for doing that, because you've been talking to some businesses as well.
So with that, what we're asking is to actually join line item 7 and line item 11. And the new wording, Robert, if you could read the new wording, that would be great.
Continue to find ways to support businesses impacted by city construction projects. And I don't know if you want to add through that fund, through the bio fund or not.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, so with that, let me do a straw poll. Who of all of you agree? Raise your hand. Okay, all city council members voted for it, so we will update that. Now let's continue for the rest of the conversation.
Okay, so I am helping out Councilwoman Parody with one of the proposals she has on the worker center.
Which is the line?
The last one, 13. And it's $6 million for a worker center, and I am going to read some information. This is for the expansion of El Centro de los Trabajadores in the Bobbio Area Swansea area. They'll serve include workers seeking better jobs and worker protections. The future worker center will provide training and collaboration with existing El Centro partners who are part of industries with labor shortages, and will also create an opportunity to bring public funds to the neighborhoods. El Centro has had huge successes with the Work Ready program through VITO, and this worker center would allow them to build on that. They're getting 70% employment rates for those with work authorization and placing in careers in hospitality, construction, and childcare. And Denver workers deserve a central location where they can show up to organize, mutually support each other, learn, and build community. We're lucky that 2 organizations with deep roots in our community are seeking to blend their expertise to bring Denver its first publicly funded worker center. So these are, I think this is Councilwoman Parodi's main priority for this area, but I think it kind of gets at, if we're talking about how we're supporting our businesses, it's also how we support the workers in the different working sectors, but then also getting folks the training that they need, and we've seen how this has been incredibly helpful with our immigrant population, and so it would continue to be able to build on that work. I don't know if I can answer your question, so I'll phone a friend.
Sure. Can you repeat who it was Centro de los Trabajadores and who?
GS Coalition as well is working in collaboration with El Centro de Trabajadores. So both of them, and then obviously some other, little bit of their responsive community. Yeah.
Okay. So like a conduized space. So my issue with this, and I love El Centro and the work that they do, but they had a physical location that they owned and they sold it. And not that long ago when it was Centro Humanitario. So I don't know what happened, why that decision was made, but I struggle with asking the city to find them a new place. I think it was off of Park Ave by Mile High United Way. So I struggle with that piece, but if there is another location, so we've got Westwood Community Center in my district that is leased to a nonprofit. Is there another space like that that can be done? Or a DPS school that has been closed? So I wonder if there are other options, if it's physical location that might be needed, rather than build out a new space for a nonprofit. So just putting that on the table.
And I can put an answer to Councilmember Torres' question as far as the proposal is done in addition. Councilmember Torres, I think that's an excellent question, and why I think this one is such a fantastic idea is that along with National Western Central build out on the triangle, there is a community center that's being provided through that development, that full development. That's part of the PSA, will be part of the development plan. The idea is this workforce center to be in that community center. So that is part of the idea. That is still something that is pending. We discussed this within community, but that is part of that idea. And so I think the dollars for this workforce center will be well
well placed, because the actual building is gonna be in a community that absolutely, where Al Centro and Uda, where most of the workers are at, a lot of the workers are on east side in GS. Also, they're gonna maybe have the opportunity to go into that new space at the community center on the National Western Complex. And so those are already connected, and we're connecting those parts.
So, just response in terms of process, if the city is building out a space, then it needs to be publicly shared, so any vendor can apply to be the tenant of that. It's the same thing we did in Westwood. Sounds like they would stand to be a prime kind of partnership to fill that space, but to predetermine that one nonprofit would be, I think, shepherded into. I think that's where I feel like we're getting cart before horse on something, but I think that's great context for me to understand the project.
I was just curious whether Councilwoman Parody put this forth as a bond project. It seems, I sit on the facilities committee, and I'm just curious whether, you're all good, okay? We're phoning a friend. The reason I'm asking is because something like this is more appropriate to be done as a bond project and not something that's coming out of the general fund, in my opinion.
It did, but it didn't advance.
It did not advance. Do we know why it did not advance?
Probably not on that Friday, maybe, or maybe it was from the review team. They didn't make the review team, I know that much, and that's probably because it was a shovel line. Or because it was down.
Okay, so I think that is telling then, in a year where we are looking at how to be very careful with our budget, if it is a facility and it did not make the bond list, or did not make it through the initial review, I think that tells us that maybe this is not the best place to put those dollars at this time. Maybe a little bit more work needs to be done on that, and then next year have that conversation again.
Anybody else?
Councilmember Torres, Diana Cometiva is also a partner.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Anybody else, anything else concerning the proposals for this goal? Okay, well then, let's take a few minutes and vote, then we will move to the next goal.
There's a quick last question.
Oh, okay, sorry, who is?
Sorry.
Thank you. Maybe somebody can speak to it. If you look at line 10 and line 13, then does line 10, are we talking work centers? Is that different than what is being proposed in line 13? Okay. So this would be more of like the...
Weren't the topics supposed to be combined?
So
They combined.
They did.
They did.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's number
The legacy
It's
program is different than the impact fund.
Oh, okay.
So it's the legacy, like what I think or.
So you're okay?
I don't know what.
Yeah.
It's
13.
So, 13 is worker center. Okay, let's go ahead and. It says we're-
So somebody flagged for me that the PDF on Legistar only had one sheet, so I just put the actual Excel spreadsheet, give it a minute to load, but it should show everything now. Apologies.
Thanks, Liz.
go ahead and start now with, goal number 5, and this is the prioritize climate response and treat climate change as an emergency, protect our communities and natural environment through collaborative action and investment, address historical environmental injustices while aiming to prevent future burdens and harm. This has 7 proposals, and let's open the floor for discussion.
I'm looking at the emergency preparedness. Line item 8.
Okay.
And it asks to add something with a specific dollar amounts, and I don't think that we're at a place when we don't have a budget, what specific dollar amounts we can ask things in general.
On the emergency preparedness as well, I would ask that the administration identify for us via the Vibrant Denver Bond what new capital improvements might be on there and how they'll be planned for dual purpose of resilience hubs regarding unpredictable climate-related disasters. If we're going to build new things, we should be able to utilize them for cold sheltering or cooling areas. And so I think we should still rank it, but we're going to have that big investment in capital as well. And so it'd be nice to meet that specific ask of the administration.
Anybody else?
Thank you. Two comments. First, about the ambient loop. I think the ambient loop makes a whole lot of sense. My concern is adding particular dollar amounts, particularly a $50 million price tag, just given,
It's line item 11.
Apologies. Yes, thank you. Line item 11. I'm concerned about the specific dollar amount, just because of our fiscal, where we are. And then also, I don't recall the second one, so I will remember it and get back to you.
My question is for line 10, waste and water, Councilman First. Do you think that the subsidy should come from CASR, because that it lives in CASR? Do we want to define that, or just leave it open for that? Because I agree with we want the small events to participate. I'm just not sure how, is that enough specificity?
I was told by Tim Hoffman that the sales tax fund just can't be used for it, so I wasn't sure if I could still specify CASR exclusively, but it would be ideal, that would be the ideal location to help provide that subsidy, yeah.
Do you have about this? Or
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Council Ferris, for bringing us to Waste No More. I sat on the committee and was there for the entire process, and at the end, the committee voted unanimously or unanimously -1, and there were 20-something people in the committee on every issue except for the implementation date, be it 2025 or 2026. Some of the concerns we've heard from, because a bunch of the process was in the last administration, some of the concerns we've heard from this administration is particularly small venues and their ability to have an appropriate timing and knowledge of how to do composting and recycling the trash. So I certainly support you. I also support the committee, and I know that the administration is wanting to make some pretty significant changes. after that recommendation that the committee came up with. And I think your suggestion helps defend the committee's decision and makes the concerns from the current administration a little less pressing, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thanks. I just have a question about all of these, and if we want to specify a little bit more about, or clarify a little bit more about the funding streams for these. And the reason for that is there are very few agencies in the city and county of Denver that have dedicated funding streams, but this is one of them. And so I think it is, given the budget challenges we keep hearing about theoretically, I do think that we should maybe take a look at these and see which ones, or maybe in the letter say any of these that can be funded from the CASR dollars, from the climate fund should be, or I don't know. I just think these are all very important. Climate change is real. Also, in a budget year where we're looking at a budget crisis, we think we should be very responsible about what we are asking for general fund dollars for, and I don't think we should be asking for general fund dollars for this stuff because there is a dedicated funding stream for these.
Thank you. I have another question around line 8 for the emergency preparedness. It said the request, we need to vote on whether we accept that request to keep these two together. And also wondering, were the recommendations or the suggestions, are those specific from like the Office of Emergency Management for what they need, or is this in coordination with what the agency needs? I think they might be a little bit different than what is on the paragraph ahead.
So,
because there's specific dollar amounts that are attached to that?
yeah, so anybody phone in parent or something? Okay, good.
So the climate resilience energy storage and EV chargers suggestions all came straight from the CIP. And then she just wanted to lift it up because she was worried that those would not be prioritized. The grant writer suggestion came because we learned during the budget questions during the hearing last year that LISA doesn't have a grant writer position, and we desperately use one to secure funds in the paper itself. She did say that the climate resilience, the new proposal could probably be folded into the emergency preparedness for goal, and then for the energy storage and EV chargers, those could also be combined into the next one that we're going into, which is the infrastructure. Do you know that the most?
One quick point on ambient loop. I agree with Councilmember Sawyer. I think this one is important. It should come through CASR, and it should be within our letter. We're sending that specific. I think it's an important one, and it's something that they've been working on.
Which one was that?
That was number 11.
Line item 11 and 18.
That you think it should be included, this one?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I support that as well, and, yeah, I think that, you know, even if something's being looked at for bond or things like that, I think it's still important for us to lift up these things because we don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. So I completely agree with you on that, and even we know that maybe not everything will be able to be funded, but at least there could be things to start at the very minimum. The other thing I just wanted to mention, I lost my train of thought.
And I had one last thing I didn't say on that, and I think one of the other reasons is because of the removal of the two substations. We've had those discussions with, there's an energy working group that we've been talking about. The ambient loop number 11, if this is paid for, the identifying where a substation, which is extremely difficult downtown, finding a space for where those go, it is forecasted that it would reduce the need for 2 additional XL substations.
So I'll go back to her. And then we'll go to.
So I just wanted to lift up the grant maker piece, because if we are talking about, budget being tight, if we have somebody in place that can actually go after grants, go after those things, then that should, help with should help with that burden of the, budgetary needs.
Thank you. Yes, correct. That's absolutely correct. So for the ambient loop, it is possible that it could be added to the bond. I know that Karen is in conversation to maybe figure that out, but wanted to stress the importance from Councilwoman Parity, that it was critical to include it in the letter as a critical priority, understanding that the dollar amounts may vary.
Correct.
Thank you. I would push back on the grant writer a little bit because the EPA is probably not going to be giving us any grants, and we did get a lot of EPA grants, and I think the IRA was a big reason why we launched that person, and so I don't know who's going to be granting this money, to be quite frankly.
So my question for the ambient loop, I understand the ambient loop, is at the National Western Structure. Do we own the infrastructure for that? Because at the Western Structure, it's the wastewater. So it's Denver Metro wastewater, and we don't oversee that. And so we have to partner with Denver Metro wastewater. And when I took a tour of the Denver Metro wastewater center not long ago, they don't have the infrastructure right now to actually do it. They're preparing for it and they're talking about it. But we would have to prepare, we would really have to partner with Denver Metro wastewater, and that we partnered with the National Western Center to bury that. And then the National Western Center created their own energy hub. They have a whole entire own building to be able to capture that heat and push it through to their buildings. So I understand the ambient loop, but I don't understand how we own the infrastructure to be able to implement it and build it out without partnering with Denver wastewater. And that's just because I had a tour with them in the last 2 months, and so I specifically asked about this specific ambient loop because of the National Western Stock Show. I had toured it. And do we have the facility to be able to build the facility like the National Western Center to be able to push that heat out? I think it's a partnership with Excel as well, if I'm understanding correctly.
Not in 1 calendar year.
Yeah, and it's not in 1 calendar year.
Yeah, just a quick add to that.
Perhaps this could be not a $50 million ask, but a ramp up to understanding what it would look like to build it. I don't imagine we can start building this in January or at any point in time in 2026 if we don't even know, conceptually where it is, engineering. That's a long-term project, so I feel like even the $50 million is probably what it takes to actually build the thing. But is that what's being requested in 2026 when it feels like there are additional design and engineering steps that need to come in on something like that? I would love for downtown to not have to find space for 2 more substations. We've come across this with Ball Arena and River Mile of where they're going to power those new developments. It's a big deal to understand that because we don't want them in Sun Valley or Loma Lincoln Park where they've been historically. So I get the importance.
Yeah, I've got an addition to this just quick.
I would ask if we could maybe have a park on this one, because I'm calling a friend from Vassar. So I want to make sure that we're clear, because I know there have been quite a few meetings on the structural piece, the collaboration, to make sure that the ambient loop is helpful. But for us I would ask for us to, I'm strongly consider this as it is, and then before we leave at 4, we'll maybe have from Vassar what their process is, as far as clarity.
I just wanted to address Annabelle's question. It's a partnership with Denver Metro wastewater and Excel. Yeah, and much of the loop would be Democrat and public right. And then I wanted to respond to Councilwoman Alvida's question about the federal grants. So So there are local grants that we would be applying for, and I think it's probably more important for us to have a grant writer because we know, or we think we know, that we may not be getting, dollars from the Fed, since I think about like the Colorado Health Foundation, Colorado Trust, Caring for Denver, those are grants, that we're probably gonna need to like look everywhere for dollars. I'm giving you examples of like what a grant writer would be. A grant writer would be writing grants to foundations or philanthropic folks to be able to grab those funds. Is what I'm saying.
So, middle comment.
Thanks. For the ambient loop, is this like a planning task force? Then, Councilwoman Torres, to your point, and is that something that then would address what could happen in this next year so that we are prepared even to look forward, so it doesn't like go straight towards a bill that goes towards, let's do that planning task force so that all of those partners are brought to the table? And if so, then could we recommend?
I just don't know how baked the idea is,
yeah.
right?
So I don't know.
I don't know.
Is this calling to change the wording? Is that what
I
you're
think
talking
that's
about?
what we would have purview over from what I understand from the conversation.
Is Parity in hearing, or is she?
No, that's.
Okay. I would struggle with changing her
Yeah.
proposal.
Yeah. Okay, Councilman.
So I was just gonna add one additional, bit of information. The steam loop's about 140 years old, that we have now, and it just continues to, it is ailing and failing, so.
It keeps the city going.
Yeah, so we definitely, I mean, it's important, it does power downtown, it's important for us to, replace it before it fails and we have to replace it in an emergent way.
I have one more question. For CASR, could somebody answer, I think currently they're doing on-call contracts for their grant writing. And does anybody know, or have they spoken with CASR, like, will they continue to do their grant writing through on-call contracts? So this is taking a staff person and bringing them into the office. Currently they do all on-call contracts for their grant writing.
Anybody knows?
What line is it? For the CASR, grant writer, currently they use on-call contracts for their grant writing.
And what's your question?
So one is, it's bringing a staff person, so the recommendation is to bring a staff person on.
Correct.
And currently they are doing all the grant writing, and it seems as though, I don't know what their full capacity is, but they are doing it all through on-call contracts.
Yes, that's why the request is to have a permanent staff person who's just dedicated to, grant writing.
So it's an FT, adding up.
That's right.
So it's an add an FT. And then one last thing that's related, so we can keep this conversation, but I want to go back. Are we going to vote on number 8 for the request?
Can we do that now first?
Well, we can finish, I guess.
Or if you want to finish the conversation about the FTE?
Yeah, I'll just say one. I think having a committed FTE to being a grant writer is not just writing the grants, but looking for opportunities. Because I think there are also opportunities internationally. It's not just what the federal government has, but there are, as we know, lots of other countries that are, seeking to address climate because it has no borders, right? Like this issue is attacking our entire Earth. And so how do we address that? We can't just rely upon, state and federal, but there are additional opportunities I think that they could then look for if we have a committed, devoted person to do so with on-call. I believe they're just being brought in to then put together the grant proposals as opposed to having somebody actively looking for opportunities.
I guess on the grant person, it's hard to rank it because within the city, having an FTE also is more expensive because you're having to pay benefits, etc. And so I would ask the question to Kasser, is it more cost effective by having someone have their own LLC and they can do their own work and they have their own companies and there's more flexibility with it? And my second point, and I'm not advocating vote however you want, but it makes me really worried when we as the city government start talking about some of the same philanthropic partners in Denver that are also funding our small grassroots nonprofits throughout the city. And so I think that's a broader conversation for this council to have after next week's announcement, so that local nonprofit groups aren't feeling like they're going up against the city and they're just going to lose because we're going to be more successful and we have more capacity. That's a huge concern given the budget outlook.
So with that, can we finish the FTE discussion and go then to the emergency preparedness? Or
Yes.
Okay, so we have something. FTE, no, sorry.
I was just given that as an example. I definitely want us to be investing in our local nonprofits and our community-based organizations, but I was just given an example outside of the federal government of grants that we might be able to apply for, or this person might be able to apply for.
Can you hand it over to Council
So I'm gonna phone a friend, Angela, who's the Mayor's office for the ambient group. They have shared certificate.
Okay.
Hi, so those of you that have received your Excel briefings, we have the Denver Development Innovation Group that's running kind of parallel to the Excel franchise process. And so through that group, they're trying to fund a study of the ambient loop. So it sounds, they are trying to come together for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now that we close that with the FTE and the other information, what about, let's go to the, what is it? Not eight, what is all the money? Here, number 8, the emergency preparedness. One of the things here, I know Councilwoman Parity wanted to add the numbers, the value numbers. Several of you have said maybe we shouldn't. So let's go ahead and determine if there's any other conversation about that before we can do a vote or something. So any further conversation about this?
So are we looking to take the number, I'm sorry. So is the request to take the numbers out and keep the content in?
Yes.
Or is it, so to add like climate resiliency, additional staff, stormwater systems, and just take out the numbers?
That's what people have put, but obviously Councilwoman Parity is not here. So how do you want to proceed? I know you have her.
So it sounds like she would probably be okay with us taking the numbers out if we would both want to do so.
Okay, perfect. Any other discussion concerning taking the numbers out on this? Yes.
Thank you. So I think that I understand why Councilwoman Parity wanted to add those specifics and the dollar amounts, et cetera, in. But I also think that all of those things are pretty much included in the ask that we already made. So if we are talking about taking out the dollar amount, et cetera, then I think just the general language that we had from last year is probably sufficient to get us where we need to go with this one.
And which is the one that we got last year? This is the top. Okay, right here, the best and forward-looking. So let's go ahead and do it this way. Those of you that agree that we should just keep the prior language from prior year, the best and forward-looking emergency, without adding what Councilwoman Parity was requesting, raise your hand if you just want what was last year, this up here. Does that make sense? Okay. The top part, what the other stuff not added. How many people would just go with the top part? other discussion concerning the other items on this, climate response, goal? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a few minutes to vote. And, this goal number 5, the climate response. Stop. Let's hold your voting a second. Councilwoman Lewis. Valedictorian, I'm going to bring it Kathy down.
I just wanted to look up for council for clarity. She wanted to vote on the one that was eliminated, and so it's no longer a separate item in which she can assign her points to. And so just wanted to see if we could put her separately back on this document so that I can assign her points properly.
Luke?
You're talking about the emergency preparedness numbers?
Thank you. Can you do that? Okay, perfect. And then now you can redo the voting.
So make it in line?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get a copy of it?
Yeah, I have it now. I'm just saying it.
Has everybody done voting?
No, sorry. I don't know.
I know.
We will do one more goal, and then after this goal, we will have lunch. I know that I mentioned lunch was going to be at 4:30. They say that they can accommodate if we finish before 12:30, the lunch. They're doing it right now, so we will have that ready.
Yeah, yeah. For lunch, go sit outside. The CCJRC. Yes, yeah.
Because I just like, I don't know, see everything. I think it's still.
Okay, we're done?
I have a thought.
Okay, hold on a second.
I have a thought. In case people need to skedaddle early, should we just do our group photo while we're waiting for lunch to set up? So people can just skedaddle. I know we have a council member who needs to get on a plane to go see his son graduate. So that way, we don't have to round people up and we can go outside and take a group photo now.
Do you want to do it now and then?
Yeah.
After they're finished voting.
Come find me.
Okay, like, wow. You thought, Watson, you thought I was breaking to you. They're like, wow.
All right. Love it. Outside, can we get outside?
Right there? That would be, yes, so let's move forward. Is
Everybody
everybody voted?
Campbell.
Yeah, that has a step. And that one over there, is it has a step too?
That one also, yeah.
It does? Yeah. So let's put it, I think.
We're going to the front. We have
It seems like everyone decided to have a family emergency today.
Did you finish voting?